one of the first things you need to be able to do is change chords in time. And so just even doing something like this, change from G to C or any two chords, can be a huge obstacle. So some of the exercises I have students do is take a couple of chords. You need to learn the top 13 open chords or something, but you really only need to work on a couple of them at a time. And if G and C are good, I think learning to finger a G like this is really important. There are times you're going to want to do it other ways, but if this is your go-to, you'll be a lot happier if you make this your default G than any other one, because all the other ones are ezy. This is the hardest one, and it's the most useful.
Still having a problem with that.
Yeah, it's the most useful because of things like there's so many times when you play a G chord and you need a half of a C chord with still the other two G's on there. Helplessly Hoping has that lick at the end. Okay, if you can only play G like this, you will never do that. And there are times you want to play G like this. If I was playing Wish You Were Here, that's exactly what I'm going to do. So some of my top things: learn to play G like this. Learn to play A with 3 fingers like this, with your first finger in the middle. Now, there are all times you want to use other ones too, but the reason for this one, as opposed to most of us have big fat fingers, and anybody's trying to do A like this, unless you're doing it on a nylon string guitar, you can't. You can't get your fingers close enough to the frets, which is all 3 fingers in a row. And what I like is split these 2 fingers like you're going to play A7. Now you have 2 fingers right at the fret. Oh, by the way, the goal is your fingers have to be as close to the frets as possible. So this is not good. So you get these 2 fingers right at the fret, then you push your first finger in as far as you can. Now you have everything as close as it can possibly be, and you can do some James Taylor stuff. You can do a hammer on this note that you can't do if your hand's jammed in here like this. You're going to slice off a piece of your finger right next to it with your nail. So learn to play A like this. And A is, again, when I say like this, your first finger's in the middle of the other 2. Your second finger is above it, your third finger is below it, instead of anything in a row. Any 3 in a row is not a good choice. Now, some of the alternatives are trying to get 2 strings with 1 finger, or all 3 with 1 finger, with what I call a hinge bar. A hinge bar means you've got this knuckle bent, and you're hyperextended this one. That gives you a lot of pressure. You use that for any time you're playing 3 strings or less. It's absolutely the best way to do it, as opposed to trying to do.
Get arthritis.
Yeah, well, if those won't bend back, you should have started playing guitar before your fingers got arthritis. But anyway, so G and A are 2 of the most important chords that fingerings are really important. I mean, that you want to have a good starting point for that. Most of the rest of the chords you don't have too many options on. You're not going to learn to play C like this, although there are times that you're going to need to make a bar out of that C, and then you want to do it. But one of the biggest obstacles in the beginning is just being able to change chords and keep strumming, and in time. So a lot of times I'll have people do stuff like this. Just play a chord and hold it for 4 beats, or strum 4 beats, and then change. But just make sure that you don't settle for this. If you're late getting there, that's better. That's way better than a pause. So your right hand has to never stop. Your left hand has to learn to keep up. And if it doesn't get there, don't worry about it. It will eventually. But if you keep getting used to stopping, that'll be, you'll get really good at that. That's not going to get you very far as a musician. So keeping the rhythm going with strumming is the most important thing. If you're doing a strumming pattern, now I didn't do it right there because I wanted you to hear you're going to let go of that chord earlier than you think. You absolutely have to be on the chord on the first beat of the next measure whenever you had to let go of the one in the previous measure. So the ultimate goal would be to let go on the last up. So that's what you hear on the last up, giving you time to get there. Okay? And not only is that not cheating, that's how you play the guitar. Because if I was going from D to C, let's say, want that last up to be across open strings. The guitar is now being percussive, not harmonic. It's part of its job. Then I land on the C. Listen to what that sounds like. Right there on the first beat, you hear exactly what you need to hear. You didn't hear this, even though it was there. Now if I hang on to that D until after I've done that stroke, and then go to C, first of all, you have to be really fast to do this. But you're welcome to try this at home. You're welcome to try it tonight with your guitar too. Listen. It's clunky because what you heard was you heard this chord get hit and then you hear it shut off. You hear silence. It's like there's a blip in the action. And what we want during that blip is noise. It doesn't matter if it's not harmonic or harmonious. So changing chords, and if I have to let go sooner, nothing wrong with that. You heard the chord for half a measure, then you heard this for half a measure, and then I had time to get there. So that's one of the biggest things about learning to strum and change chords is keep this hand going. When you're working on strumming patterns, the most important thing about a strumming pattern is this hand never stops. You would never do this. Okay, could you see how erratic that was? It should look like this. Your right hand keeps up a constant motion of either 8th notes or 16th notes if it's going a little slower, and you miss a lot of strokes. Or your hand keeps moving, but you don't play. This opening to Sandman by America. It's just really quarter notes, but my hand's moving at the speed of 16ths. I'm doing 4 strokes for every one I'm hitting. That much. Okay, and then I hit it again. And it's so that I can do this. So, instead of just doing this. Sounded terrible. It just wasn't as rhythmic because this hand has to be a metronome. It just keeps moving. So, last big beginner tip. So if you guys have started working on finger picking a little bit, the rules are a little bit different. And the first thing I have people play is House of the Rising Sun, just doing this straight 6-note arpeggio. So you could practice this without even a chord, with your thumb playing the 6th string, and your top 3 these fingers playing the top 3 strings, just because these are the notes you'd get if you were playing an E minor chord. So you can practice your right hand without any chords. And you just have to be able to do this straight up and down arpeggio, meaning going from low to high and back. So I'm going thumb, index, middle, ring, middle, index, 6 notes. You can even play Metallica there. But I have people, get this down first and then apply this to House of the Rising Sun, where the chord progression goes from A minor to C to D to a little F. And we have sheets on this, right, or not? You printed this up? Okay. And the important thing with this is that you learn to put your fingers down in the order you're going to play them. When I was just doing my D to C change there a little while ago, I pretty much had to move all my fingers at once and get them down. And watch my left hand as I run through. With the A minor and the C, it's not as obvious as it will be with the D and the F. I'm going to the little F just because there aren't many times you need this in a song. I still want people to learn bar chords. But in the case of this song, the bass has to follow this pattern continuing up. So we need to hear this high F as the bass note for the F chord. See that?
They're all ringing.
And they're going down one at a time. It wasn't this. Okay, so I lucked out and got them all. They all came out clear. But that was a lot of work, and it was a low percentage play for hitting those. So when I went to the D, I hit the bass note. First of all, I don't need anything on the bass note. Then I need this finger, so I put it down just before I play it. Then I need the D here, so I put this finger down just before I play it here. Then I put the F sharp on. So from C to D will look like that. Now when I go to the F, the natural way to put down this little F is like that. Does me no good here because I need to hit this note first. Gotta hit the F first. So I come out of the D and I put the F on, and then the A, then the bar. So this is, you know, one of the most important songs for beginners to learn and master that exact technique of putting your fingers down as you need them, so that every finger has to be controlled by an individual brain. Now, most of us don't have enough brains to do this, but but we can manage with practice. We can create the illusion that we have multiple brains because we at least have multiple fingers, you know. So anyway, so that's some of my biggest things for beginners to work on, changing chords. And the next thing is stuff that Carl brought up of alternating picking, playing a C chord, for example, and just keeping the steady bass notes going while eventually you're going to do something like this. But notice what my thumb's doing, keeping up a steady flow of 2 bass notes at the speed of quarter notes back and forth, so basically 4 in a measure. And the first exercise I have people do to get this down is just, first of all, just get the bass going and make sure you're keeping it in time. And these would be your quarter notes. And then these fingers are kind of going to be assigned to strings. This finger is going to play the 3rd string, 2nd string, and the 1st string. And the first thing you could do is just practice playing your index finger in between every one of these. So it's just a little alternating exercise. I'm just going, you know, thumb 1, but my thumb's changing strings, right? And you work on this with each finger, so now, then you try it with your 2nd finger. Then you work on it with your 3rd finger. And just get to where that is easy, you know, and comfortable. Then you start working on 2 fingers alternating while your thumb's alternating, maybe these 2. Or these 2. And just get to where that, you know, it's like learning to walk almost, you know.
I mean, you can get so much out of just doing that. I'm thinking of like Lindsey Buckingham and Landslide or something like that.
Landslide, when I teach people landslide, it's with the pattern, it's 4 bass notes and 3 fingers. Where you play, each one is played in between bass notes, this finger first after the 1st bass note, this one after the 2nd bass note, this one after the 3rd, and not one after the 4th, and 3 easy chords. G with B in the bass, and A minor 7, and right back. You know, now that seems like might seem like a really easy exercise, and it can be. You know, obviously the song goes a little bit faster, but that's a perfect, you know, beginning finger picking song. And you just don't need, the goal doesn't have to be to play it along with the record, which is going to be moving fairly fast. They're probably capoed at the 3rd fret usually when Stevie sings it, I think. But then working on speeding that up, and to where you can do it fairly unconsciously, and just keep it going, and because then you can start thinking about the words or something else. You know, so when you first start working on this stuff, it takes like about 120% of your concentration possibilities, and you know, even if it works well for 20 seconds, it's like then your head explodes and you got to stop. And you know, so those are the kinds of things that I think are really, really useful for beginners. Bob, you were talking about flat picking and stuff, and some of the things I have people do for that is learn, and you could probably already do some of this stuff, I don't know, but you know, the easy stuff is just keeping an alternating bass thing going, like for Teach Your Children or something. You know, just little country bass pattern stuff. But then you can try slightly more complicated things, like picking out the melodies to maybe something like and in that case, most of the measures, if a measure might only have 1 melody note in it, then you just strum, or a measure might have 3 melody notes in it, in which case you just play those 3 melody notes. You know, so or but then some of my other favorites. I already played a little bit of "Don't Fear the Reaper." Is another one that I have people work on to kind of work on their flat picking technique and stuff. But there are a lot of songs out there that are really, really good for stuff like that. So, let's see. Anything else anybody wants to hear about quickly or longly? I don't know if anybody needs to take off.
Spend a minute talking about Totally Guitars.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Now for the real commercial. No. Obviously, a few of you know about my online presence and with Totally Guitars. It's it's a website full of lessons, and all of these techniques, everything I've talked about here is stuff that's there. Sometimes it's a little hard to find things there. We're revamping a lot of things, so it's totallyguitars.com, and my partner Matt and I started it almost 10 years ago. We kind of launched it in the beginning of 2009, and I did not think it was going to. I didn't think it was really going to work, but it's really neat. It's given us it's how I met Bart, for example, and many of us have made some great friendships and relationships because of getting involved online. I spent a little bit of time this summer in Amsterdam and Zurich with people that I met through the guitar company, and we did a camp in Amsterdam over a weekend. That's just another tiny thing that materialized out of this. And now that we started these camps about 6 years ago, this has been even more amazing because people will come spend a week in California or 3 or 4 days in Amsterdam and really have concentrated time, kind of much like this, except it's you get also a lot of time to play with other people, because like we were talking about, sometimes this is one thing that you guys have this sort of going there, but a lot of people never get a chance to play with anybody else, and never play in front of anybody. And that's something else we do at the camp. We kind of encourage open mic nights. Basically, every night is everybody gets up and plays something. And the first time after they, clean up the mess and stop sweating and stuff, they think, "Oh, that was terrible, but I got to do it again." So and it's the way it works at our camp. It's called the International Guitar Camp. It's, first of all, it's the best audience you could ever have because everybody is in the same boat. It's everybody's getting up there and playing, and they're all scared to death. Not exactly true. By the time, after somebody's done it once or twice, they're really looking forward to it. And we have people that plan all year on what they're going to play at their open mic opportunities, and then they're also going to rejoin, get to hang out again with people they've made friends with and got to know. So that's the two big things I do is Totally Guitars, where we've got all these video lessons, and then we run our camps, the International Guitar Camp. And this year the Amsterdam one is at the end of July, and the California one is the end of September, starts September 30th, going into the first week of October. So hope some of you would think of. John's been to a couple. Bart's been to 4 or 5, I think. Yeah. Anyway, so it really is kind of a cool thing. So I hope you guys might think about doing that. So.
Do you do concerts? During the year?
Not as I used to do like one a year near my house and that's I was telling you a little bit about some of the stuff there earlier, I think, with Allison.
You don't go out?
No, and
Festivals or anything?
no. So I sort of live under the off the public radar as a performing guitar player, and I mean there was a time when I wish I had done, or when I wanted to do more of that, where I thought, oh man, I need to be recognized as a great guitar player or something, and I think I outgrew that. It's like I had a family, and I know friends of mine that go out and do that all the time, and I'm thinking there is just no way I could have done that. I don't mean not music wise, just I'm a homebody, and I'm really close to my kids who are now 24 to 30, and it's so yeah
But you'll come to Arizona.
Yes, and see.
I had to call in a few chips, a few favors.
Yeah. It's.
Getting away from the fire.
Well, it was pretty smoky when I left, and I heard it was
I'll
even
bet
worse
it's
after
pretty
that.
bad.
Yeah, and we're about 200 miles from the one in Northern California, but but that was still pretty smoky. Again, if you may have seen the 49ers game last night, you could see that, and that's very close to my house. So, that stadium. So, yeah, I know. I was gonna say, yeah.
Hey, before you go, okay, one last thing. Neil's got,
Oh yeah,
some pictures that he'll autograph one for each one of you if you want it.
sure.
Is that cool? He's also got CDs that he's mentioned a couple times.
Really?
$10 a piece.
I should have said something.
If anybody's interested, $10 a piece on the CDs.
How much do those autograph pictures go for on eBay?
Yeah, well, if I'd been doing more concerts, maybe. And really, I'll be around if anybody wants to play something and have me, you know, help, if you want me to see why you're having a problem with something, I'm happy to do that. Until we get kicked out, I guess. You know. So yeah, if you wanna. Okay. Yeah.